Hi everyone, I'm Amber from Majestic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to be part of the Marathon Sewciety, and I hope you've been watching all the other sewists today. And I am honored to be able to sew up the Victoria Wristlet by Lauren from More Me Know. And I used a water resistant canvas, I used some vinyl, and I did it exactly according to the pattern with the card slots and a zipper inside, as well as the magnets on the outside. So thank you so much, Lauren, for allowing us to do this today. I really enjoyed making this, and I hope that all of you watching will give it a try because it is a really fun make. And I do think a beginner could do this, especially if you're a confident beginner. So if you like my video, please feel free to subscribe, like, and I'm going to have everything in the description. I'll have the link to Lauren's pattern, to her website and her socials, as well as the links to all the other sewists participating today in the Marathon Sewciety. So I hope you enjoy. Alright, so I have everything laid out, all the main pieces that I'm going to be using. So I have cut out the pattern exactly as Lauren suggests in her pattern. So I have all the pieces. I have the exterior and the lining, card slot, D-ring, zipper tabs, the exterior pocket and lining, the overlay, inside zipper pocket, and a strap. And then I usually don't use these thicker ones from Joann's, but I didn't have any, and I had a 40% off coupon, so I ran out to get these. So they're 2 magnetic snaps, and then I have 2 zipper pulls. I'm going to use the silver because I have also my snap hook and D-ring here, both 1/2 inch size. So I'm going to use the purple zipper tape with the silver on the outside, and then on the inside I'm going to use a pop of color and one of Lauren's rainbow rose pulls. And I'm going to be using this lilac Tex 35 thread from Wizardry Stitchery. It's my favorite thread. I use it in my domestic, in the top and the bobbin and everything I sew. And for the inside, I'm going to use black to match the polka dots. And I'm using a 9014 Microtex. So these prints are 2 of the, I'm calling them water resistant canvas. They do not have that thick plastic backing. They have the spray coat of the PU on it. So these are both available in my shop, and they're not like super thick, but they're pretty durable. So I am not using any interfacing for them. And the same, this overlay is, you can see it's embossed and has a floral. We call this our blooming vinyl, and this is also available in my shop. So those are the main things that I'm going to be using to sew up today. And then of course you're going to want like tools like clips, maybe some snips, seam ripper, marking tools, stuff like that. But this is all the main things that I will be using. Okay, so we are going to prepare our zipper tabs and our D-ring connector. Because I am using water resistant canvas, it has raw edges, I'm not worried about its fraying, so I did the measurement in the pattern, and we're folding it halfway in. So I have marked my centers on both both zipper tab ends and the D-ring connector, and I am folding the sides in to the center mark and just going to clip. And because it's so skinny, for me, I find this easier to fold one side at a time. So what I'll do is fold that. I'm going to take it to the machine, top stitch, and then fold my second side in and top stitch the other side. So I'm only going to fold half for now. The D-ring I keep saying D-ring, sorry. These zipper tab connectors are a 4-fold. So I'm folding them into the center and then folding them one more time on top of themselves. I'm just gonna clip that real quick because before I do anything else, I am going to add my zipper pull, and I'm gonna start with the side where the teeth are higher. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to get it. They are zipper jigs. All right, there we go. Perfect. You can, for me, I can tell when it's aligned where once I tap on it with my finger, it will slide on fairly easy. Okay, so now that I have this one folded, I am attaching it, and I have already cut my zipper to the length given in the pattern. So if you haven't already done that, you can do so. And this calls for tabs on both sides. You could also leave your zipper tape a little bit longer and do the method where you fold it back. But I'm gonna just do the tabs on both sides. So again, I'm folding this into my center and then one more time on top of itself. And I'm clipping it here. All right, and why I'm doing this all at once is because I'm gonna take this to the sewing machine and top stitch along both sides, holding my zipper in place. And I'm going to top stitch along both sides of my D-ring connector as well. Now we have our zipper with our zipper tabs. I did not trim them down yet. I prefer to do that after I install the zipper. And we have our D-ring connector, and I just sewed a small line of stitching to hold the D-ring in place. And now we're gonna build our wristlet strap. And I'm gonna do it a little bit different than how it's described in the pattern. And this is just so it's like a continuous circle and the seam is hidden. So I'm still going to fold to my centers like directed. And I always fold down one side at a time. And I'm just putting a couple clips for right now. I'll clip it better once I have it folded onto itself. And the way that I'm doing this, I sew on a domestic, but my machine can handle the thickness. So you definitely want to be aware of that, because we will have multiple layers like folded onto itself. Okay, so once you have it folded to center, we are going to still fold it onto itself, that 4-fold. But I'm not going all the way to the ends. And so before I get all the way down to the end, what I'm going to do is fold it just enough to put on my snap hook and then bring that towards the center. And now once it's centered, before I top stitch the edges, I am going to bring my short ends together, right sides together, and I'm going to clip them because I am going to stitch along here, I'll probably use a 3/8. I think the strap is long enough that I could use a 3/8 seam allowance. So I'm going to sew across here. And what's going to happen is that is going to hide our end into our wristlet. So I'm going to do that at the machine. Okay, so I'm at my machine and I just sewed my 3/8 across. So now I am going to open up that seam and fold it into the center, just like we did with the rest of the wristlet. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think there's going to be 8 layers at one point. So I'm using the water resistant canvas, not interfaced, so it's not very thick. But if you are using any type of thick material, this might not work well, especially if you're using a domestic. So now I am going to top stitch this on both sides. I always top stitch the side that is the folded edges together first. So I just moved off my arm, and I usually like to start and stop close to the seam. So that is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to top stitch both sides of this. And when I get to the snap hook, I'm just going to keep moving the snap hook out of the way. Wristlet strap, and it is completely in the round. So now I always move my snap hook where the seam is and just fold onto that. And you could rivet this or sew a line. I'm just gonna do a line of stitching to hold it in place. All right, so now I'm going to build my exterior pocket, which has the magnets, but I am not attaching magnets yet because I'm worried that when I top stitch this piece, it's going to be so close that I won't be able to top stitch it correctly. So I have marked my magnet spots on my lining piece for the exterior pocket and on the exterior of one of my main panels. But I'll do that more in detail in a few minutes. So I'm going to start with this. This is our overlay. Now this vinyl here has a black backing. So our bottom edge is a raw edge. If this didn't match with color, if it had like white, I would definitely edge coat this. But because it's black, you can't really tell, I'm not going to edge coat. And our sides and top are going to be hidden in a seam. So I am going to line this up with the cutout of the V. Okay. And I'm going to take it to the machine and I am going to top stitch along the bottom. I'm going to be taking my time because this will be visible, but then I'm just going to baste it along the sides and the top, and that basting stitch is going to get hidden in a few minutes. So the really important line is this bottom line here. All right, so I'm at my machine, and before I start top stitching, I just wanted to show you that I have put on a Teflon foot. Even though this vinyl is not very sticky, it's going to help me keep my stitching even. So I definitely recommend that if you have trouble with vinyl. I have top stitched the bottom, and I really took my time with the bottom, and I think it looks nice, especially because I'm using contrasting thread. And then I just quickly ran around the top and sides because that you're not going to see. So now I normally would have had my magnets already attached, but again, I'm afraid of when I attach this, I won't be able to top stitch. So before attaching magnets, we're going to take our lining piece for this pocket and put it right sides together. And then we are going to top stitch, not top stitch, sorry. We are going to just stitch along the top only at the seam allowance given in the pattern. And I'm going to take my time because I am going down to this sharp V here. Okay, I just trimmed it over the garbage just because it was so little that it was really messy. So now we are turning this right side out, so wrong sides will be facing each other. And we want to be very gentle because we have that deep V. We don't want to pop any of our stitching. And trimming that seam allowance should make it a little bit easier for us. And I'm going to flatten this out as I'm doing it. Sometimes I use a chopstick to help push out, but that seemed to be rounded pretty good. All right, the only thing that I'm debating about is because I'm using purple thread, you can kind of see it here. So I'm debating if I want to go back and stitch a little bit closer. But honestly, I think it's going to get hidden. Or I can even just take like an edge coat or something and put it over there. Okay, so once it's folded back, I'm going to bring it back to my machine. I'm going to switch out to my Teflon foot again and top stitch along the top. Okay, so now we are going to add our magnetic snaps, and I have already marked my circle, my center on the lining, and I'm really happy that I top stitched it first because there's no way with these magnets that I have that came from Joann's, I would have been able to top stitch if I had installed them in the beginning. So how I do this is I take the washer and I line up the center over the circle. So the circle is against the circle. And then I mark the lines going down. And I'm going to repeat that for the opposite side here. And you can see I'm having to manipulate this quite a bit to fit underneath. So definitely be mindful of this when you are top stitching or putting your washers in. Okay, so now that I have it marked, those lines are important because I am going to take my seam ripper and very carefully seam rip along that line. And you want to be careful because it is so easy to seam rip too much and then you have a big slit. If it's too big, you're gonna see it. So I'd rather just do a tiny bit, and then if I need to later, I can increase it. Or you could puncture it with your seam ripper and then use scissors to cut up if you are worried. Okay, and then another thing that I do is this is a scrap of waterproof canvas with the PVC backing. Now, I personally like to add an extra layer, so I am going to mark extra spots on this and do the same exact thing, because I'm going to add this to the back of my magnetic snap just to give it a little bit of extra support, basically. And sometimes I even like double it. Yeah, maybe I'll double it too. So this is something that's really good if you keep your scraps. I keep my scraps of everything. Okay, so because this side is so close with the top stitching, I am going to put my male snaps. So I want them on the right side of the lining. I'm just going to line it up. And my slits were long enough. So this is what it looks like on the back side. And now I am going to take this waterproof canvas. Actually, I'm going to have to trim the top because of the accent vinyl. And I am going to put that through. I did not put a big enough slit for this one. There we go. Okay, and you can see that I was able to manipulate it up behind under the top stitching, and now I'm gonna add my washer, and I always fold mine to the outside. Some people put them to the inside. I just fold them to the out. And you can see that it is tucked up behind. And then if we are looking from this side, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to repeat this process. And you can also some people put tape over this now, if they're concerned that the prongs might rub through. I would say especially if you had like quilting cotton, but I think it's fine with the waterproof canvas, and then it has the vinyl on top. So I'm going to repeat this exact same process for my other side here, and then I'm going to do the same exact thing on one of my exterior pieces. I already have the center circles marked, and I'm going to put the female side, so it's going to look like this. So I'm going to do that in time lapse. I've attached the magnets to the exterior panel and to the lining, and I'm just going to snap them into place, and you can see they line up perfectly. So now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to take this to the machine, and I am going to baste along all three sides, and I'm also going to take my D-ring connector, use the measurement given in the pattern, and baste it into facing inwards. And the measurements are all given in the pattern, so you can just follow it there. I might put mine up a little bit more than what is recommended in the pattern. So I'm going to do those two things now. Okay, so I have basted my pocket on, basted my D-ring where I would like it, and these are still snapped together. So I'm going to start by building the interior zipper pocket first. So this is my piece 1 lining, and I am just going to fold it in half to find the center. And like I said in my intro, I do not have this interfaced because it is the water resistant canvas. Okay, and then I also need my interior pocket piece. And again, I'm going to find my center, but I'm going to mark that one on the back side. So, and I'm just using a silver marking pen from Lauren's shop, mormino.com. It shows up really well and you're not going to see them. I don't use this anywhere that you can see unless it's like certain vinyls. And then I also have this tool from Lauren that helps me create my zipper pocket. If you don't have one of these, you can just use the measurements in the pattern. But since I have my centers marked and Lauren has a center piece here, I am just going to use this. It makes my life much easier. So I'm going to line the center up with the center and then the pocket piece with also that center. Okay, and then once I did that, I think I'm actually going to use just 2 pins. I don't like using pins because it leaves like the puncture hole, so I'm just gonna do 2 small ones. And I don't think they're gonna be noticeable, but I don't want this shifting while I'm trying to draw the zipper pocket or sewing or anything like that. So I don't want it crooked. And what makes this helpful is that now I can line up that center and draw in my box. Okay, so I just wanted to double check the pattern to make sure that I had the right measurement for how far down on this box as well. And so the measurements are in the pattern, and I'm just marking them here. And of course I put my pin exactly like right where I'm going to need to sew. So you know what, I'm going to put it right through this zipper box. So that's not going to bother me when I'm sewing it, and you won't see the holes. And now I am also, while I'm here, I'm going to draw in the lines that I'll need to cut later. But that's just saving me time now. I'm not going to cut anything yet. Okay, so if you have one of the zipper tools, you can make it quick and easy like that. Or you can just follow the instructions. Going from center tells you how long to make the box. So you can see I have the box here, and it's really important that we have our linings right sides together. Probably should have said that in the beginning, but I'm hoping you can tell by the print. So now I'm going to take this to the machine, and I am going to stitch along the outside of this box using my regular stitch length. I'm not doing anything in the middle, just the outside. Okay, so now I've sewn my box. You can see here it dips a little tiny bit where I didn't move my pin in time out of the way of my presser foot. But I'm not going to fix that. It's not bad enough. And I removed my pin down here, and you don't really see the holes. And that's because I'm using the water resistant that has the sprayed PU on it. If it had the PVC thick backing, you would probably still see those holes. So just test a scrap before you do that. So now I'm using my seam ripper to rip along that center line that I had drawn. And I just used the seam ripper to start. So now we are going to snip it to this little triangle. And then I'm going to cut along the sides of the triangle as close to my stitching line as possible without cutting the stitches. That's really important. The closer that you can get it to your stitches, the cleaner this zipper pocket is going to look. Wow, that was super close. I had to check I didn't get my thread. All right, so now we flip this through the opening. And I'm going to flip it to the wrong sides. Just helps me pull it through a little bit better. And depending on your material, it might take you a little bit of maneuvering. And one thing that I didn't mention is that I'm using the same material for my lining of my pockets as I am for the lining of the actual wristlet. And I really recommend that if you're doing this type of pocket, because sometimes you can see the material here. And if you don't use like an overlay, you may see that. And this just helps it to blend in. So now Lauren recommends that you can leave the pocket like this and just top stitch around to leave an opening. But I am going to put a zipper in here. And I decided that I'm going to use the white over the rainbow zipper that's offered in my shop. I just think it will give it a nice pop of color inside the wristlet. So I am going to cut it slightly larger than my pocket. The measurements are not given in the wristlet because this is like an optional thing. So you can see it is longer, and that is just to make sure I catch my zipper on both sides. And I'm using, this is size 5 nylon zipper tape carried in my shop. And I am going to use one of Lauren's rose pulls. So how I attach my zipper pull is I open up my zipper tape, and I'm right-handed, so I start on the right-hand side and I insert it just so there's like 1 or 2 teeth in. And then I insert the left side. And I try to make sure they're even. And it should sit there without falling off. And then push on with my pointer. And then pull it through. Now, this can sometimes take a little bit of time. You can use a lighter to sear the edges. It is nylon, so it will melt. I try to do that as little as possible just because it's burning plastic. And so this zipper tape is from my shop, but it's size 5 nylon, so I can use it with pulls from another shop. In this case, this is from Lauren's shop, as long as they are also size 5 nylon. So you can definitely mix and match. So now what we're going to do is on the back side, we are going to center our zipper. And I make sure that I have space on both sides of the opening and flip it over. Now you can use double-sided tape to stick this. I try to use double-sided tape as least as possible because it gums up my machine. So now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch all the way around this box, moving my pull out of the way. And I am going to just hold it as I'm sewing. I'm not going to stick it into place. And I'm going to backstitch. I'm using black thread so it will blend in. But you could always pull your tails to the back if you'd like. So I didn't realize I accidentally filmed this in time-lapse. So all we're doing is attaching our second lining piece, and I'm clipping it, and we are going to sew around all 4 sides, sealing our pocket. Alright, so now we have finished sewing all the way around our pocket. You can trim that down, and then I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to work on my card slots. Okay, so now we're going to prepare our card slots. I have drawn out my lines and labeled the letters as suggested in the pattern. It's really important that if you are using a directional print, that you start at the bottom with A. Since mine is the polka dot, it's not going to matter. And I drew with the marker because you're not going to be able to see it, and it's also water soluble. So once you have your lines drawn, you're going to start at A, and I'm using the ruler to help me, and you are going to crease wrong sides together. And I'm using the ruler just to help me give that sharp edge. If you are using a cotton, you can iron this or iron this with a Teflon sheet. I'm not going to iron it. So that's my A fold, our wrong sides. Now on our B line, our second line, we are going to fold right sides together. So I peel this back a little bit, match up where my line is on each side. And then once I'm happy, crease it. And if you're folding it correctly, your sides should stay evenly matched up in a line. Okay, so the first one was wrong sides. B line was right sides together. Now we're on our C line, back to wrong sides. And this is called an accordion fold sometimes. We are just rotating right sides and wrong sides. Okay, so now for our D line, that is right sides. And then you can see that it is starting to form our card slots. Okay, and we're back for E. That one is wrong sides. And then F is right sides, and we're not going to fold on our last line yet. So now these are folded up nicely. And I am just checking to make sure that they are even. So if they're not even, you want to adjust that now because we are going to be top stitching. So we didn't fold on our last line yet. So I'm going to take this to the machine and top stitch along our 3 different folds. I believe it's A fold, C fold, and the E fold. So these 3 here, 1, 2, 3. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to open it and put them one at a time underneath my machine like that. Okay, so I just finished top stitching all 3 pockets or card slots. So now we are going to fold on this last G line right sides together. So before I do that, I'm just gonna lay these flat, make sure that they are even or look even You can use a ruler and measure, but I think they look pretty good. And we are going to fold this down, lining up the wrong edges of both. And the reason why we want to make sure they're even is because we are going to be sewing the sides. So if they're not even, they're going to be misaligned. So I'm using clips. And this is really cool. It's going to create a pocket and the card slots. So now I'm going to sew down the side along the bottom, but I'm going to stop and back stitch here, leave an opening, and then start again with a back stitch and continue sewing up the side. And this is so we can turn it through that opening there. Okay, so now before I turn this right side out, I am going to clip diagonally across my corners and trim the seam allowance. This makes it easier to turn and will, especially the diagonal along the corners, will make it a nicer looking corner. And then we are going to turn this right sides out. Also, because I used water resistant canvas, I did not interface this. If you are using something less sturdy like card slots, you are going to want to put some interfacing here before you turn your pocket. Or sometimes people put it just like along the creases, so that way it's sturdier. Some manipulating to really turn this and keep it straight, but also the corners to look nice. So this is going to be also a slip pocket behind. So we're going to do two things right now. The first is I'm going to top stitch along this top crease here. And then if you want a long slip pocket, you can fold this in half, find the center, and sew your dividing line. I'm actually going to do that when I attach it to the lining because I want to create two smaller zip pockets. So for right now, I'm just going to top stitch along that top crease here. Okay, so now I have my second main lining piece, which I am going to fold in half and mark my center. And I am going to align, giving in the pattern, the measurement, making sure that it is centered. And now because I did not draw my dividing line yet, I don't know exactly where my center is. So I am going to fold this, but I'm not going to mark it because you'll be able to see that mark unless you use like chalk or something. So I am going to line that center up with the center on the ruler, and I am going to use just a couple pins, and I'm going to tuck them in behind the card slots. That way you don't see if there's any like puncture holes, just to be careful, especially because we're going through so many layers right now. And I'm not using double-sided tape or anything because the back, we are not sewing along the top of this. This is going to be a slip pocket. So if we put anything behind there, you're going to see it or feel it. So now what I'm going to do at my machine is I am going to top stitch along the both short sides and along the bottom. That is going to seal the opening closed where we had the opening to turn it. And so I'm gonna do all 3 sides, and then I'm gonna draw my dividing line and sew up the center. So that's gonna give me a divided slip pocket as well. Okay, so I just sewed around all 3 sides. It seals up my bottom. I have my card slots and the slip pocket in the back, but now I want my divider line. So I'm actually going to find the center along my bottom as well and mark that. But then I'm going to use chalk. I'm lining up using the ruler my bottom and top centers and just marking with chalk. And I love using chalk because it just wipes off so easy. And so now I am going to stitch a divider line here that will separate my card slots, but also give me 2 little slip pockets as well. And I'm going to start from the bottom just so it flows smoothly with my card slots. And now I also really made sure that for all of these I backstitched really well at the beginning and the end, because you are going to be pulling on this. It's going to get a lot of wear and tear. And so now this will doesn't wipe off just with my hand, but I can just take like a little wet towel and that will come off with no problem. And my card slots are done, so I'm going to set this piece aside. Together. So now we are going to start attaching our zipper pull or zipper itself. So I am going to fold this in half to find the centers. And I'm just using, again, the silver marking pen to mark the edges so I can see it. This is a darker zipper pull. And then I'm going to find my center here, and I'm going to start with my front of my bag. So I want my zipper opening left to right. That's also why I put my D-ring on the side, because I don't want it to be opposite the way the zipper closes. So I am going to line up the center of my zipper and the center of the exterior panel piece with my zipper facing teeth down. And I am just going to clip that here. And I am going to take it to the sewing machine and baste it into place. I'm just going to baste from one tab all the way to the next. Okay, so now I have my zipper basted in place, and I am going to attach the lining. So I am going to use the lining with the zipper pocket. So I have my center marked already. And so I'm going to line up my center with the center of my zipper. I should have marked the back side as well, but it's okay, I can still see it. And I'm going to clip all the way across. And make sure you're moving your pull out of the way. I even move it as I'm lining up. I feel like that can also give you a wavy zipper when you're clipping it. Okay, so now we have our pocket right side facing the right side of our exterior. And I'm going to sew this with a zipper foot all the way down. Okay, I'm still at my sewing machine. I just finished sewing my zipper on, and now I'm going to trim my zipper tab. So make sure you do that if you haven't already done so. And then now we are going to fold it open Now, in the instructions, it's told to, or directed to top stitch while your lining is folded open. My preference is to top stitch through the lining. I like to do that because I like to make sure that my lining is not going to catch in the zipper tape. But in order to do that and to have this sit nicely, we are going to top stitch beginning and ending at the edge of our zipper tabs. We are not going to go all the way to the end. If you do that, that's what gives you that weird crease in the ending. So if you are sewing through your lining, make sure that you are stopping in the beginning and the end of the zipper tabs. Okay, so I have now top stitched along. My thread blends really nicely, so it's a little hard to see from this side. Can see it a bit better from the back. So I am going to repeat this same exact process for the other side with the exterior and the lining. And the reason that I chose the zipper for this side, even though it's kind of might be a little bulky with the magnetic pocket, is I want my card slots towards the back. So you're going to repeat the same exact process for the other side. All right, so I have attached the back side and top stitched it. So I'm really happy with how it looks. So now we are going to fold our exteriors right side together. They should match up perfect. And then clip them. And I'll clip like in time lapse. And then we are going to do the same exact thing for our lining. Make sure your zipper is open. So if you have not already opened it halfway, definitely open it because we are going to be turning through there. And then you are going to clip your lining. Okay, so I have clipped all the way around. One thing that I didn't mention is if I had the V on both the exterior and exterior front and exterior back, I would make sure that that is aligned on the side. But because I don't need to worry about that, but I did make sure that my centers are aligned. So we are going to take this to the machine and we are going to leave an opening at the bottom here on your lining. That's what we are turning through. So I'm going to sew all the way around the outside, leaving that opening. I am going to increase my seam allowance slightly on the lining, a little bit bigger than it is on the exterior, just so that way the lining fits a bit more snug. So again, back stitching in the beginning and the end, going all the way around and stopping right here, leaving an opening. Okay, so one more thing before I start sewing. I switched out to a zipper foot, and that's so I can get very close to my zipper tabs. You can feel them through your material. We want to make sure that we are sewing along the side of them, not over them. If we sew over them, they're going to get like stuck and it's going to look funny. So you just want to be very mindful of that. And my zipper foot is going to allow me to get very close to them. I have finished sewing all the way around. I left my turning opening and I am going to cut my corners at a diagonal. That will help them turn and sit better. I am going to trim this down just a tiny bit, not all the way. I still want some of it sticking out. Okay. And you can trim the seam allowance down a little bit more if you want. And now we are going to gently reach inside, stick our hand through the zipper, and turn our bag right side out. And because I'm using the water resistant canvas, it's a little bit stiffer. So I'm just going to be very gentle as I do this. Okay, so I finally got it all tucked out. It's a little bit difficult with the waterproof canvas. It was very tough just using my hand. So I have just like a wooden chopstick that I help poke out into all the corners. Just make sure you're not using anything pointy that is going to bust through your seam. So I made sure all my corners were poked out, and then I also make sure that I stick my hand up and where the zipper tabs are and really press up on them. That way they fully come out, and because we didn't catch them in the seam allowance, it should form like a nice squared corner. So now we have our opening, which I always use my machine to close. So I am actually going to change my thread to black so it blends in. And I'm going to clip this closed. You could also hand stitch this, but I do not have the patience for that. And it's going to be inside of your wristlet, so you're not really going to see it at all. And I just always stitch mine just at 1/8 an inch, as close to the edge as possible. Alright, so I have just stitched my lining close. And now we can tuck that into our bag. This water resistant canvas with the PU layer really does provide structure. I did not interface any of this, and this is pretty sturdy. So if you increase your seam allowance for the lining, it fits very snug. I have my card slots in the back and little slip pocket. On this side here, you can see the zipper pocket tucked away. Our exterior with the snaps, and those are really strong. They'll definitely hold a phone in there. And now, last but not least, to just attach our wristlet. All right, and we have finished. All right, so we just finished our Victoria wristlet. I absolutely love how it turned out. It is so beautiful. It came out really structured, more than I thought it was going to. So I hope you enjoy. Please feel free to like, subscribe, follow along on my channel, as well as all of the other amazing sewists that participated today. And again, thank you for Lauren for being such an inspiration in this community and for allowing us to sew up your pattern.